listening to the Cozy Chaos Zone. I am your host, House of Dub. Stay cozy and embrace chaos.
You are listening to the Cozy Chaos Zone. I am your host, House of Dub. In regards to all things cozy, I have a brand new bass that should be coming in the mail soon. Should be here soon. Like, it could happen right now while I'm sitting here. And in regards to all things chaos, I don't know when it's going to get here. I could be in the middle of recording this podcast when I have to go sign for it. So that's just chaos on a whole other level. We are going to shine a spotlight on a song. We are going to highlight an artist. That song is Apocrypha. The artist is Arbor Atlantic. We're excited. You want to know why? Because we have Arbor Atlantic here with us today. And they brought a guest. Let's start the podcast. Welcome in, Arbor Atlantic. It is awesome to have you guys here today. Why don't we start? Why don't you guys just introduce yourselves and let us know who you are and what you do in Arbor Atlantic.
Yeah, you got it. So I'm Will, Mr. Meowskulls, go by online. But so I basically handle all the music writing, production, all that kind of stuff, and split lyric duty with the other half over here.
And I go by Lasku on here, but I'm Joe, and I sing and also do some of the lyrics and tend to do the production and the side of mixing and such. So.
All right. So let me know a little bit about this project, how you guys got together to work on it. Was it Arbor Atlantic before you guys got together? Did you decide on the name? Give me kind of like the rundown of the origins, if you will.
Yeah, it was kind of just a meeting through a mutual friend, probably like 10 or 11 years ago now, and both writing music on our own, doing separate things, liked each other's stuff, so ended up deciding to work together on a project, and eventually we ended up trying to go into a concept albums type thing, and Arbor Atlantic kind of was a framed piece in that concept album, which we'll finally be working on now. But we like the name so much that we kind of just stuck with that.
Yeah, I think that the merging is kind of if I remember correctly, there was definitely a swimming pool and adult beverages involved. So yeah, it was a long time ago now, but yeah, glad we went down the path.
All right, so you guys have been collaborating on music for a long time, but it's only up until recently you decided on the name and sort of the focus of the project.
I mean, the name's been there kind of since the beginning. We just never really got into that concept side of it until more recently. Now that we've gotten more familiar with how we want to approach things, how to use the DAW and all the tools we have, and just being more familiar with the production in general, we can finally tackle that the right way.
Yeah. Walk me through that. What was the when did it just start clicking where you were like, all right, we can actually make this a thing that works? It's not just let's start a band and then you make the MySpace page or the Facebook group and no one ever shows up for the first rehearsal. I think I got 4 or 5 bands like that. But when did you guys decide, and what was it that made it click? Where's the cohesiveness? Where did that all kind of start blending into what the project is now?
It's fun. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, I remember we had an album coming out probably in about a month or so that we wrote a good 8 or 9 years ago now. And I remember there was one song on there called The Fear of Coming Back. And I think that was the first time that we both, finished a song and we're like, oh God, this is okay. We got something here. And, that kind of developed and, moved here and there through different genres and things, and kind of ended up where we're at now.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, even from the first time, I remember we sat down in Will's living room to see what we could even do together. And I mean, by the end of it, we had a song done. I mean, that was kind of when we start working, it's kind of it's kind of a bit of a magic happens and songs just happen. But then like it's kind of ironic in a way, but like lately, as our songs have been picking up, it was almost like an odd catalyst of it was me moving 3,000 miles away. So, um, so I am on the other side of the country that I'm used to. So it's a little different.
So now walk me through just this particular song, Apocrypha. Where did it come from? Where did it start? Just give me sort of like the history on where this one came from. Is it one that's been sitting on the back burner for a while? Is this like a brand new one?
It's definitely one that I mean, as far as the production, composition, all that kind of stuff finished up, a couple of years ago. I remember this was kind of, at least I see it as the turning point to where we're at now. Prior to this, we had just finished up another song, and I had another one in production, where it was the first time I kind of approached things instead of writing on a guitar first. I wrote, a bass part first and built from there. And that kind of changed the way I looked at, constructing and building, melody or different layers and stuff like that. And kind of using that in this one, just started with an ambient kind of guitar backing and built the bass line in, and then built the song around that. And then once we kind of had some of the music in, I remember Joe had come up. I don't know. It was one of the two of us. We pulled up, our notes of lyrics on our phone, and there was that opening line of "I'm just bones, put me in the ground." And we're like, okay, we're going to go somewhere dark with this. And
Yeah, some of the previous songs we had worked on, we started kind of a lighter, and then we got into an album out. The one that's coming out soon is much more aggressive and almost at times like forced aggressive. And it was interesting. Like this one, it kind of relaxed, but it almost like it flowed into an interesting kind of groovy darkness with the new bass going on and everything else. So I just really love the feel of this song. And Will said it, I think it definitely set us on the path that we're on now, with this really redefining what kind of music we were making.
Okay. It sounds like it's like a dark and perilous journey kind of path, right? If you're going down that road. But I mean, if that's like the kind of vibe, that's just the kind of vibe. And it like, you both seem like two like really pleasant, happy guys. And it's like cool to like come up with like, yeah, the first one's just about like being buried. I'm just bones. I like that. It's always it's kind of fun to explore the darkness. Yeah. Now you brought up earlier about DAWs and like how that was a big part of the process. Just run me kind of through like production wise, like how do you guys? You're 3,000 miles away. What is the process like? Who's uploading into what DAW? How are you guys working? Like where do you kind of glue it all together?
Yeah. I mean, so basically we both use Logic. So that works well. Usually, I mean, honestly, even before the move and doing stuff remotely, most projects would start with, I'd have most of the instrumentation in there, at least have a structure to an extent, and we build from there. So a lot of that hasn't changed, where, like this song, for example, I go in and I put in, a little ambient part, put the bass in, and then kind of build from there. I kind of let each part guide me into the next. I don't ever really approach something with having a mindset of what the structure is going to be when I go into it. So for instance, in this one, you kind of have that opening where, it's kind of ambient, the bass builds, and there's there's a couple of like quick hits of, like a distorted heavy guitar. And I kind of let that groove kind of build into a chorus where it's kind of like an opposite of the rhythm, where now you have the guitar taking more of a laid back initial approach in the beginnings of the bars, and at the end it's kind of quiet and descending with the vocals, just to kind of make it a little more cohesive. But once I get the majority of that stuff kind of situated, usually then Joe going in there, attack vocals, we'll explore that, which now we can do remote through Zoom or things like that. Share the project over Dropbox, and kind of work on it at the same time, or, pass it back and forth if needed. And then, at the end, I'll go back in, add in some extra guitar to kind of highlight and accentuate the vocal lines and melodies that he built, to try to make it feel, add some compliments, add some, pieces that play well together.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's just a whole lot of. Are you out of the project now? Yeah, I can open it in Dropbox. Yeah, it's funny. Like when I come in and attack it, I mean, like, I never have any idea other than the songs that we're working on more recently. That are kind of concept album. Generally, never have any idea what the song is really about until it's done. We just kind of go with the flow of it and see how it goes. We'll we generally both kind of have like a running list of different lyrics that we might want to attack it with. Sometimes pop up in the session, and then once all kind of like Will said, it will add layer upon layer upon layer, which makes it exciting for me at the end to mix. So we're all generally done with it. I'll go in there and I'll do the mixing and kick it out to whatever platforms, and we'll go from there.
Every time there's like a collaborative process where it's like a lot of back and forth, I'm always interested in like how both parties come to decide like this is done, like this is the finished product. Where do you guys sit when it comes to like figuring out that like this is done now? Is it when you say so and when you're mixing it and mastering it and you say this is it, or do you guys go back and forth on it and like come together with notes? Is there ever any kind of like butting heads necessary, like we need to add 30 more vocals to this, or maybe we should take like 29 vocals out?
Sometimes it's we need to add like 3 more decibels to the kick drum.
Word. Okay.
I can never satisfy the kick drum master with decibels.
Yeah, my inner Rick Rubin just craves more kick all the time.
But yeah, I think we're kind of lucky. Like we tend to always be on the same page. We really have from the get-go about what kind of sounds we like. It's been nice. I mean, we listen to different types of music. I mean, Will has brought me into a lot heavier stuff. Like it's not usually what I used to listen to, and now I listen to much heavier music than I used to. But I mean, we've always kind of had the same opinion of what sounds good when we're done. So we've been very cohesive in that regard. So we've been lucky with that.
Yeah, it's definitely nice just having a similar outlook, whether it be lyric wise, performance wise, anything like that. And I mean, there's very rarely a time where we'll go and be like, okay, change this or change that. And usually, and I mean, we both don't mind, if I say, Joe, change this vocal line a little bit, or I go in and mess around with it after he recorded it, or same thing. And he's like, that guitar kind of sounds weird. Can you change? Like, it never gets to a point where it's in any way, animosity or anything like that.
Yeah, it's usually not. It's nice even over when we're doing it on Zoom or something. Like sometimes we can tell it's done based on the other person's facial expressions when we play something. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, well, that's always awesome. It's always awesome to have that sort of like relationship with making music, because I don't know, when it comes to like a solo project and you don't have anyone to bounce anything off of, that's where it's cool to have something like indie music feedback. But when you have someone to bounce something off of who has like, on the similar wavelength, you were mentioning like influences, obviously, and you both brought different influences from the start, I guess, to this project. Who would you say you were listening to? Like, what would you say was your influence for making music before this project and now currently working on this project? Like, give me some artists.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, playing guitar a long time ago, my guitar teacher was a very big blues player. So I mean, I started rooted heavily in blues kind of style stuff, at least when I learned. As I, kind of built my own thing, it's as much as none of our stuff really sounds a lot like it, Jimi Hendrix was always big for me. I always liked his styling with different things. The Mars Volta was big. Coheed and Cambria were always a big influence for me as well. When I first started writing, before we started working together, I was writing like instrumental post rock, very like explosions in the sky and stuff like that. And, I think some of that still comes through in a sense where I like to build layers in the same way I like to build crescendo kind of style stuff. In the same way that I used to do that back then in the instrumental side and, more post rock, which, that combined with some of the more heavier stuff we've been doing, I think adds a cool style to it.
Yeah, for me, kind of different. I mean, I guess probably two of the bands that really influenced me, like really before Will and I started playing. Like I was a big Incubus fan, and a big Soundgarden fan, and so we started working together. We started playing, and I distinctly remember Will introduced me to a band that quickly became defining for me. It was the Deer Hunter, and I just absolutely loved the theatrics of the band and Casey's voice, and it just his delivery of things, I think, really inspired me on just how to just let go and just send emotion, and from there I kind of got pulled into some more heavier things that I listen to now, some different types of different prog metal and such, like Periphery, and yeah, I mean, I think some of that is kind of evident in some of our sound. Some of it starts lighter and then gets heavier and then cools down a little bit. Now it's a lot heavier. It's been an interesting journey.
So to go back to the song Apocrypha, what's something that do you want the listener to like really look out for? Because you mentioned how it feels like you guys are really finding the style, you're really kind of finding the direction. What's something you want the listener to be listening for that they might see more of, that you guys are definitely leaning in more of the direction of? You mentioned that there's a new album coming out. Like what's some of the stuff that you really want your listeners to take away from the song, and any like interesting parts that you guys found during the production that really stood out to you, like even favorite moments in the song, lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, for this one in particular, I always just loved the way that the chorus flows. It's very, very kind of laid back and groovy in a sense, despite the lyrics and the bridge that kind of comes out of nowhere. We definitely kind of taken on more of that element of adding a good groove running through everything, whether it's a slow plodding feel or something a little more upbeat, and that kind of transposed with some of the heavier, darker elements or dissonant things, and then allowing Joe's vocals to kind of harmonize and bring some brightness too is always fun. I know in this one it kind of has that light groovy feel throughout, with just a hint of kind of anxiety coming in, and then at the end it gets after the bridge and the final chorus with a lot heavier vocals and stuff. And then just, I mean, as far as the song overall, when we write lyrics, we both have such a similar outlook and similar style and how we approach things symbolically and anything like that. And, I always love to hear what people get out of a song from that side of it, because 90% of the time we have different opinions on what the song means to us. And I always like a very open interpretation kind of style, and just allowing somebody to take their own thing away from it. There's very few things anybody would be able to say like, oh, this song is about that, and I'd be like, nah, that's not quite it. But the majority, I'd just be like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, this one I like I always tend to gravitate, and Will does too, so it kind of works out. So most of our lyrics tend to be fairly dark. Sometimes the delivery may sound happy, but it's not usually a happy theme. But like for me, this one is kind of really starting to explore kind of different changes in emotion in the song. I mean, like at least to me, like there are more melancholy parts of this song. There are definitely more angry parts of this song, and there's there's one interesting part of the song that I always really liked that I don't even remember at this point the origin of it, but there's a part that just kind of comes out of nowhere. Um, it's just a really just a quick aggressive bar vocally, and it's like what is that? And then like you don't hear from it for a little while, and then it comes back later towards the end, and I just kind of always liked how that sat, like a little bit of like a quick shock to the system, and hoping it comes back. You know, I always like that part of the song. This one.
Well, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I want to give you both the moment and time to plug anything you have to plug. Is it if you want to, if there's like a solo thing, if there's social media things people can follow you guys on, if Arbor Atlantic has like a link tree or what, however you guys do it, the floor is yours. Plug away.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you can find us pretty much anywhere. You know, Instagram, Arbor Atlantic, SoundCloud is where you'll find pretty much everything of ours. You know, we get behind in releasing things on the major streaming platforms, and just being happy with final mixes and stuff. But I mean, we always upload right away to SoundCloud. So, you know, there's albums and albums of material on there that aren't technically, you know, released on those big platforms. So, SoundCloud would definitely be the best place to check out music wise.
So it'll be on all those places. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to be on the podcast. All the plugs will be in the description below. Make sure you stream Apocrypha by Arbor Atlantic.